Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a dramatic, high-stakes shift happening right now in the communications discipline. We are talking about the massive leap from simple legacy clip counting straight into the modern era of true reputation engineering. If you work in enterprise comms, you already know this shift fundamentally changes your daily workflow. It changes how you listen, what you listen for, and, crucially, how fast you can turn those market signals into real strategic action.
So let me kick things off with a very direct question. Does your media monitoring end at a coverage report? Seriously, ask yourself right now, are you still equating PR monitoring with that static, massive list of brand mentions dumped into your inbox every Monday morning? Because if you are, well, you're working with a playbook that just doesn't match the reality of today's media landscape. The audiences have changed, and the signals that actually move your reputation, yeah, they've changed too.
And that leads perfectly into this quote from our source material that just absolutely hits the nail on the head. If your monitoring still ends at a coverage report, you are measuring the past while your competitors are engineering the future. What a massive paradigm shift, right? We literally have to pivot our entire mindset away from these outdated tools that merely document what already happened and move toward intelligent systems built to anticipate and shape what happens next.
Okay, here's our quick agenda for this explainer. We're going to start with the evolution of PR, then do a head-to-head of traditional versus modern monitoring. Next, we'll hit the AI revolution, break down core modern capabilities, look at pitfalls to avoid, and finish up with engineering your reputation. It's a packed journey, so let's jump right in. First up, the evolution of PR. We're looking at the journey from physical binders to AI narratives.
The timeline of our industry is actually pretty wild when you step back and look at it. Decades ago, this discipline literally started with clipping services. People with scissors, physically cutting out newspaper articles and pasting them into binders. Then fast forward to about 5 years ago, we traded those scissors for digital Boolean keyword searches. Better, for sure, but still just scanning for isolated keywords. Today, it's all about real-time narrative clustering. And looking ahead to 2026, it is entirely about large language model, or LLM, perception tracking. We have literally gone from glue sticks to neural networks. It just proves the tooling leaders are buying today looks absolutely nothing like the software we used just 5 years ago.
All right, moving to section 2, let's do a clear head-to-head comparison between those legacy platforms and modern intelligence.
This really boils down to contrasting two core questions. Traditional monitoring tools are built to answer a totally backward-looking question. Where did our brand show up? It treats coverage like it's the finished product. But modern monitoring? It treats coverage as raw material. The modern discipline asks a way more strategic question. What do those appearances actually mean? What do they mean for our reputation, our share of voice, and our stakeholder trust over the long haul?
I absolutely love this rule of 3 right here. Speed, depth, and action. It perfectly captures the differences that matter for enterprise budgets. First, speed. Traditional tools use batch processing, scheduled reports that are stale in days. Modern tools, real-time alerts. Second is depth. A traditional report just says, hey, a story ran. A modern platform analyzes the whole narrative to tell you what the story is arguing and who's amplifying it. And finally, action. We're moving away from just proving PR did its job and shifting straight into strategic decision support, telling leaders exactly which conversations need an immediate response.
Now, when you lay out all these capabilities side by side, it's so obvious why VPs of communications are ditching legacy tools. Just look at the outputs. Isolated mention lists versus cohesive narrative clusters, or the sentiment tracking, generic, off-the-shelf scoring versus brand-centric scoring tied to your actual reputation metrics. But the biggest one is user intent. We are shifting from documentation to decision-making. That is exactly where legacy tools fall completely flat.
Let's dive into section 3, the AI revolution. This is where we start treating generative AI as a distinct, massive audience.
Okay, let's talk numbers. 66%. According to research from WE Communications and USC Annenberg, 66% of communicators now use AI frequently in their workflows. Honestly, you and your team are probably part of that group. This massive wave of adoption is completely reshaping every single part of the comms function, how we listen, what we listen for, and how quickly we act.
Now, this next data point is just shocking. 8%. A Pew Research Center analysis found that when users see a Google AI summary at the top of their screen, they click a traditional search result only 8% of the time. Think about that drop-off compared to the 15% on pages without an AI summary. Generative AI platforms are literally intercepting your audience right at their point of curiosity, and the idea is spreading like wildfire. Digiday's analysis showed that ChatGPT referrals grew 52% year over year in late 2025. These AI platforms aren't just software tools anymore. They are a massive discovery channel. They're actively synthesizing earned media into narratives that millions of people treat as the absolute truth. They're shaping brand perception before a single link is even clicked. If your brand is misrepresented by an AI, traditional monitoring isn't going to catch it. No way!
So, Section 4, Core Modern Capabilities. Let's break down the exact toolkit you need to actually survive this shift.
First up, narrative clustering. This one is a real game changer because it finally stops the agonizing noise of those old-school Boolean queries. Instead of treating every single article as an isolated, noisy mention, it groups related coverage into the underlying stories that are actually driving perception. It lets leaders see instantly which stories are picking up steam and which ones are just safely fading away.
Next is LLM perception tracking. This surfaces exactly how AI systems are describing your brand and, this is key, which specific earned media sources they're citing to generate those answers. Think about it. You could have flawless traditional coverage across the board, but if ChatGPT is describing your company inaccurately because it's pulling from one outdated, unflattering Reddit thread, you have a massive reputation problem on your hands. Rounding out this toolkit are a few more absolute must-haves. You need brand-centric sentiment scoring, not just generic algorithms. You definitely need publication tiering, because let's be real, a feature in the Wall Street Journal should naturally be weighted way heavier than a passing mention on a tiny aggregator. You also need dynamic competitive share of voice to see exactly where you stand against rivals in real time. And lastly, recommended messaging starting points to help your team rapidly draft those crucial responses.
Moving into Section 5, Pitfalls to Avoid. Making this switch is a profound mindset change, and there are some common traps you definitely need to watch out for.
Here are the stumbles we see all the time. First, teams over-index on volume metrics out of pure habit. They keep reporting raw mention counts because it feels safe, even though it doesn't answer leadership's actual questions anymore. Second, under-investing in source quality. If you don't take the time to configure those publication tiers, your shiny new dashboard just fills up with the same old noise. And third, actually this is the most important one. Do not treat AI and LLM tracking as optional. It is unequivocally the most consequential emerging surface in comms today. Leaving it unmonitored is a massive unforced error.
And finally, Section 6, Engineering Your Reputation. Let's talk about the future of PR.
Ask yourself this absolutely crucial question. Can you see narratives forming and act on them before those stories harden into your permanent reputation? The whole gap between the traditional approach and modern monitoring really comes down to answering this question with a confident yes. Your setup has to be actively built for the narratives, not just the mentions, and it must be built for the automated AI audiences that are actually shaping perception today. Which brings us to our conclusion. It's time to stop passively counting mentions and start taking proactive control of your narrative. See how reputation engineering works at handraise.com. Are you ready to stop measuring the past and start engineering the future? I really encourage you to rethink your approach and demand more from your tools. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep learning.